And from Spanish Springs Lanes in the Villages, Florida, this is the championship round of the PBA50 National Championship. I am Phil Brylow.
You are.
With me, Tom Carter. And Tom, we're getting ready to rock and roll here. And I'll tell you what, another exciting stepladder.
We got a great stepladder with Walter Ray clear at the top going for back-to-back wins. It's going to be a great tournament.
Yeah, Norm Duke, once again, making a stepladder.
Amleto, Hall of Famer, and Player of the Year with Michael Haugen and Brian LeClair in our first match.
Yeah.
I mean, 112 titles are out there right now. Unbelievable. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let's get out to the lanes. Let's get things underway. John Weber making the last announcements for practice. And Brian LeClair is going to get us started here on this pair. And you talk about survival of the fittest for LeClair. Came through clutch in the position round to get ahead of Harry Sullins and just barely stay ahead of Mark Sullivan.
Well, it was kind of funny. I talked to him in qualifying, and I nicknamed him Mr. Strike a Lot. He goes, not this tournament. And lo and behold, he found a way to figure the lanes out because this week was tough. I mean, it was 44 feet of oil at 30 mils. We were on the Billy Hardwick 44-foot pattern. It was brutal. I mean, there's no other word for it. It was brutal. But these guys in the top 5 made it look like it was simple.
Yeah, it is the first match on this freshly oiled Hardwick pattern. This is something these guys only saw when they were on the opening squad of the day earlier in the week.
Yeah, we had 3 squads, the fresh, the burn, and the breakdown, the double burn as they call it. And on the fresh, some big scores came off the fresh because they could play really far right because there was some friction there and let the ball arc in. But, boy, as the day went on, the lanes got what we call kind of cliffed up because so many people use dull equipment, and they burn out that outside, and there was still a lot of oil in the middle. And that's when it became hard because if you didn't have the right trick in your release, it was tough.
Haugen 10-5 in match play today to get the number 4 position. Not surprised that he's letting LeClair finish the match on that lane 18. It's a tough condition when it's early. It's tough to get doubles and 3-baggers in game 1.
Well, on the fresh, they've been sitting for a couple hours.
Yeah.
They were oiled earlier, so it's kind of leveled out. And those lanes 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, they were a little tough in the beginning on the fresh. And these guys are throwing great big balls as far as weight blocks with a ton of surface. Some guys got 500 on them, just trying to burn a spot out there to get the ball to hook. Because when you got 44 feet and we're using Connect oil, which is a real thick viscosity, and you think, okay, well, it's not going to carry down. But when the plastic balls went across the lane for spares, it carried down, and it made the back ends really tight. In the beginning, you had back ends, you're going, boy, this is going to be fantastic. But as the oil carried down because of the viscosity of the oil and the plastic balls going across the lane for spares, the back ends got enormously tight. And we watched some outer ranges. I actually watched Chris Keene throw one shot. It was a 10-pin set clear over to the 9-pin spot.
And Haugen does the job on the 10-pin with that shot.
And you're going to see the guys are playing them pretty straight. Amleto being kind of the freak of the top 5 because he hooked it more than anybody in the tournament. And if you look at the guys that cashed and the guys that made the top 32, a lot of the guys are pretty straight because there was just so much oil you couldn't really swing it very much because the ball just never picked up on the lane. And I don't care what kind of surface you had.
And as you see right there, it's a 44-foot pattern for these players at Billy Hardwick, but they don't want the ball to get past that end of that pattern before it starts to roll, do they, Tom?
No, they want this thing to start rolling. I mean, we were actually telling guys to start looking closer, get the ball down earlier, start getting this ball to read, because if it doesn't start reading the mid lane, at 44 feet, you only got 16 feet of transition. Lane's only 60 feet long, right? So when the ball comes out of the pattern, and with that kind of volume, the ball doesn't really want to make a move. You just watched Haugen there, and he's a pretty straight player, and he's kind of going up and at him. And wait till you see Walter on this. I mean, it's going to look like he's playing horseshoes.
LeClair finished 3rd in the season opening Johnny Petraglia BVL Open last week. Ended up losing to eventual champion Walter Ray Williams Jr. And how about that for LeClair front 3? And that's going to require a little clear in the dead, but I'll tell you what, Tom. the staff here at Spanish Springs Lanes, they're going to be right on top of that. I guarantee it's not going to take more than 10 seconds for that pin to go away.
But this place, Larry Ducat,
it's gone already.
Yeah, is absolutely amazing. I mean, they treat us so well here.
And a round of applause to the fans. So you see Larry behind.
Yeah, he's
Brian
like
LeClair.
He's like, they better get that deadwood now.
It's beautiful. Michael Hagen Jr., of course, he's our reigning player of the year, and last year won 2 titles, the Giant Petraglia Beeville Open and the River City Extreme Open.
Haugen just rolling the devil out of that ball, starting it up. He's got surface on it. He's got the pin down, another big ball, and you just can't give the pocket away on this, at least not in the beginning, because they're just so tight. And he's playing like up, looks like right up 5. Now, LeClair with more hand, he's like 6'7", 7'8", yep. Taking it out to 3. And if you got enough hand, you can get it to come back. LeClair using that idle pin up, no hole. He said he went to it, and it gave him his best look down lane because the guys were having problems with the ball actually driving through the pins. You could hit the pocket all day. It's just a matter of getting the ball to strike.
Yeah, we saw a numerous amount of 7-10s in the middle of the match play rounds today. And there's Haugen answering back.
And that was one of the best hits that you had. It was that almost, wasn't quite half pocket, but it wasn't high flush.
Solid hang low, Tom. I had to switch. They're tight.
Michael Hagen Jr. coming over to our microphone and giving us a little extra bonus coverage.
Yeah, I had to switch. They are tight. Walter, even down in practice, said they were tighter than they've been.
So LeClair looking to keep it perfect here.
He's got his big knee brace on. He wore it the whole tournament. He said he wore it the whole tournament last weekend. It was my mistake. I said he only wore it in the match play rounds, but he said he had it on the whole week. And I told him, I said, I didn't see it.
So LeClair still, the 10-pin advantage is still perfect through 4.
Well, as much Avalon pads and Scotch-Brite pads that were down there, these lanes are going to change.
Is it because they know there's fewer players bowling in a stepladder final that they really want to change the lanes themselves?
Well, they're trying to make the shot better for themselves, and not that they say there's no defense in bowling, but they might be changing them to where the other guy can't quite hit them. Yeah, because that's the problem right there, because LeClair is swinging it, and if you swing it, you hit that OB at 44 feet, and there you go, 24810. And I don't care how good you throw it, it just doesn't come back. Ball speed was a big issue this week. You had to have a lower ball speed. You had to get the ball to pick up. I mean, best analogy, I guess, for guys that live in the Midwest, you start out driving your car real slow on ice to get some kind of traction, and they had to do that here because 44 feet of oil at 30 mils is a boatload. Michael's going to a ball that he hasn't really used, but since the lanes are actually tighter because they've sat longer, the oil's kind of smoothed out. He just needed some more surface. And Michael's a pretty straight player, but he can hook it if he needs to. But if you go around it too much, the ball just skips through the front. And these guys are going right up the back of it to get the ball to start reading, just like that. One thing about it, when you're bowling in this match play on this lane condition, it is definitely not over, no matter what happens until the 10th frame, because strange things happen on this pattern. I watched a guy earlier today, Kevin Croucher, had the front 9 and split the 10th for 263 because he bowled Amleto, who had 269. You think if you have the front 9, you're going to win, and he split the 10th just because you push that ball just a hair farther and you're in trouble. Michael got that. He's playing farther out. He's playing 3-4, and he's taking those half-pocket hits, which is good. That's a good carry in this place. Because you hit flush in this house, there's a lot of times you leave 4 pins and 10 pins, and you're thinking, man, that was a good shot, and it just doesn't carry.
And you just mentioned the never say die attitude about Amleto in that match. There's a guy who knows about it. It's this guy here, Michael Haugen, down 51 with 4 frames to go in the 2008 TOC.
Against Barnes.
Against Barnes.
And he comes back to win.
And that's what a professional does right there. Haugen jumps all over that opening that LeClair left him and ends up getting out to a 28-pin lead.
Well, these guys, their focus and their mental game is so strong. I mean, they're in it so much. And I think the oil's changing. You know,
it doesn't. There's so much of it in the front part of the lane, isn't there, in this pattern?
And it's just such a thick viscosity of oil. We use Connect, and it's just there wasn't a big margin of error. And for the guys that didn't actually execute well, let's say, this week, you could see it because, the ball just went. And that was a tough spare 10-pin because there was so much oil in the middle. The ball just kind of like hydroplaned to the right.
So LeClair with the spare still down 28, 4 frames remaining. And what's the move after that week 10? Next time he's up in that lane, do you think? Just throw it better?
Yeah, you just got to throw it better. You got to get it into a roll, and you can't give it away. Brian's a big, strong kid, and he can definitely get the ball to roll.
LeClair 18 PBA regional titles and 4 PBA50 regional titles to go with his PBA50 national titles and that Player of the Year award.
So he got that ball out earlier, quicker, and it made the turn. And when you try to get it out too late, it just doesn't have time in this oil. And the fact that Mike is using a lot of surface out there, this is helping burn a spot. So it could be beneficial to even Amleto in that next match because Amleto likes to send it right. So, he's got to have some friction to bring it back. Michael kind of unique, that side shot when you watch him. He's a tall, slender guy, but his bowling shoes don't have slide soles on them. He just flat plants. That's a rubber sole on his left shoe. And guys keep thinking, well, man, isn't that going to hurt his leg? And probably if you were my size, it would. But him being, and he's done it forever, and his body's just used to it. But one thing about it, where your body's at and your leverage is at, because if you're actually bowling basically in tennis shoes, if you're not leveraged just right when you get the line, you are kissing that lane at some point. You're going forward.
So Haugen back out to 38, making it look 48 and almost impossible for LeClair to come back.
He's using that half pocket on that left lane, and there's no reason for him to adjust to get higher flush.
And it's got to be mandatory strike mode now for LeClair because his maximum, you hate to say his maximum is only 252, but he got 290 going for Haugen. He's down 48 already. If he doesn't strike in the next 2 frames, it's pretty much over.
Well, this pattern, I believe in just watching the guys that bowled really well. The straighter you can go through the front, the better you carry. Oh, that was a late 7-10.
The wry smile on the way back as he toppled the 7 and 10 both to the left. That's a little unusual.
Well, if that would have stood, it would have been game, set, match at this point with the way Haugen's bowling.
And there, watch that pocket carry at the end, and watch that 7 and 10 and just tip, and then.
You watch LeClair from the side. Look at that wrist. He's the weight of that ball is sitting dead on his thumb. He's keeping his wrist cupped to get that ball. It's rolling immediately, and it has to, because since he's giving the ball away, he's got to create friction to bring it back. The lane's not giving you a whole lot of friction unless they actually burn it up with all that Scotch-Brite and Avalon pads and Sierra pads and everything else that they were using. Some of those balls look like dust bunnies going down there.
Leaving a trail almost. Well, right now, Hagen Jr., if he gets a couple of marks here, he's in pretty solid shape. Keep LeClair in the rearview mirror. Don't forget, waiting in the wings, Amleto Monacelli in the 3 seed, then Norm Duke, the 2 seed, and Walter Ray, the 1 seed.
Oh, that was that high hit we were talking about. It was high. It looked great. Almost left a solid 9. And he got the break.
Fans are going absolutely crazy. You see the cameras shaking. They're applauding so hard on that shot. Let's take another look.
And that ball, you would think that was just perfect, and that ball just kept going left. Michael will take that.
No doubt about it in this match. Basically, Haugen keeps on the lane, and nobody can touch him, and he's going to advance to our next match.
Michael gets set up. If you look at him, he always looks down at the ball just to make sure it's set in the same place all the time. And this is about a game of repeatability, doing the same thing over and over and over again. And Michael's got this actually pretty much in hand.
Yeah, this one they're just going to fast track the rest of the way through. LeClair knows there's no chance, and he's going home with another stepladder final, but unfortunately for LeClair, not another title.
Not another title, but, you know, Brian, after day one, or in a day and a half into the tournament, he didn't think he was even going to have a chance, and he ends up on the show. So, I mean, obviously he's disappointed that he didn't win, but respect the fact that he made it this far and fought through qualifying and in match play finals to get to the show. You can't be upset about that.
So Haugen looking for 290. He's going to be looking for his next opponent, Amleto Monacelli. We'll be back. Monacelli's going to get some practice. We'll be back with that action shortly.
Yeah, I'll be down there. I'll let you know what's going on.
Let me know what's going on, Tom. Go take a peek. Thanks.
Nice hand for Brian LeClair, everybody. Congratulations, Brian. Another top 5 finish. Michael Haugen moving on, and Amleto Monacelli coming on for his 6 warm-up shots. We'll get match number 2 underway for you. 6 shots for Amleto. It's a little quiet in here. We need some people cheering for Amleto and Michael.
There we go, the announcements from John Weber, and we're going to have to wait for the names to get switched because on the scoreboards down there, we have them right here on our scoreboard with Haugen going to go first, Monacelli going to be going next. Ready?
Ameleto's going to start. He doesn't want to finish on that left lane.
Okay, so that we do have to get those names switched. So we'll get that taken care of. I'm Phil Bryla. That's Tom Carter.
And we are on FloBowling.
Yes, we are. And we are underway with our second match. Hagen Jr., the big game to open things up and take out Brian LeClair. And then you hear the crowd right there go, oh!
Yeah, because they thought he threw it too far to the right.
It's been that way all day for Amleto.
And for where Amleto was going to play, we thought he was going to play, it hooked too much too early. And he goes, I got to move in. And we actually went to a pearl ball instead of a solid that everybody else is using. But Ameleto's got more hand and wrist than, you know, the average bear.
Yeah, you see that ball make that turn too and just roll and roll hard.
And if it roll sets to the pocket, the carry is incredible.
There's Haugen, first shot, first frame, and both bowlers strikes on the board.
That same ball that's pinned down with the mass out, get that ball going, got some surface on it. It'll be interesting to see what happens to Haugen. I mean, this lane's going to be changing, obviously, because Amleto is pushing some oil out to the right. So that could change his break point down lane because, like I said, this oil's pretty thick. And if he gets it out there, it could tighten up his shot.
Oh, how about that?
He got out that 7. It was a slow one, but I don't think it's going to take very long for that to actually tighten it up. And that's what happened today during the tournament. The back ends just kept getting tighter and tighter. And you thought you made a good shot, and the ball wouldn't climb the hill.
So Monacelli stepping up, looking to match the opening double of Hagen Jr. Monacelli, last season, runner-up finish in the PBA50 Cup, the Brian Kretzer. That was his best finish. Last time we saw him in the winner's circle of the PBA50 Northern California Classic in 2017, where he had that high-scoring match against Chris Warren.
He's cool, calm, and collected right now.
Yeah. Now, you just mentioned Amleto pushing the oil out
I did.
on Haugen. Does a pearl ball absorb more oil, push more oil out than a ball with surface like Haugen's using instead? Does it grab more oil? Or
even though the pearl ball's got surface on it, and we
Okay.
put some surface on it, pearl's not going to soak the oil quite as fast as a dull surface ball, and it could push some out there. But so far, obviously the first match was high scoring. We haven't seen a lot of spare balls go across the lane, so there's not a lot of extra oil going down the lane.
So Monacelli opening turkey, hanging out on about 3 board, and just let it part the 8-9 beautifully.
Yeah, he slowed his speed down, so we call it going around the shot. He's actually trying to circle the shot a little bit because he's got more push in the front part of the lane. And Haugen is going obviously playing where Walter is. Walter might even be playing a little bit farther right when he gets to that match. And Duke is going to be somewhere in between, I think.
Yep. It's always funny before these step-ladders. Duke doesn't practice.
No, I don't think he wants to get a false idea of what's happening. He'll come in and take his practice shots based on what is happening right now.
Yep.
Because a lot of guys, you practice and you go, oh, the lanes are doing this and this, and 15 minutes later, the lanes aren't doing that, And then you're trying to make the ball do what you seen 15 minutes earlier. Norm's going to come in, take a look at the lanes, make a judgment call at the moment on what he's going to do.
So both bowlers, front 3, looking for the 4-bagger.
And both of them attacking the lane totally different.
Yeah.
You got Michael that crossed 4-5 right the arrows down the lane, and you got Amleto crossing 15 out to 5 down the lane.
We mentioned it earlier today when match play started this morning that it's going to be easy to throw 250 or 260 in a match with the quality of players that were out there just in the round of 16 in match play and lose.
Oh.
And we're going to probably see that in the stepladder maybe in every single match.
We've seen several games that were in the 260s, 270s, and guys lost. Hence, we got Bowler of the Year, Hall of Famers, and the best bowlers on the PBA50 on the show.
And this isn't a piece of cake shot on the ratios from side to side. It's 2.4 to 1.
Yeah.
It's almost as tough as some of the shots they see on the kids tour nowadays on the Go Bowling PBA tour.
The only difference is the rev rate because we played them farther right because we don't have the rev rate. The kids on this shot would have had a lot of service on their balls. They'd have been left and they would have just burned a big spot because they can hook it back. They got the revs. Their release is totally different in this generation than what we grew up doing.
And now this lane surface, too, here in Spanish Springs, it's very unique because it's not a Brunswick surface or an AMF surface.
No.
And it's a very low-friction surface. That's why Johnny Petrega always says he likes it because he can throw it slow here.
Oh, that's way out there.
No, it's not.
And it's way back.
It's not. 2 wrongs don't make it right, but 3 wrongs can make a strike, Tom, right there. Because he missed right, and he got slow, and he gave it a little extra, and he didn't see how
look
he
at
gave it a little
that. That
business
is
there.
out to 2 down lane, at least 2, and he's like, oh my God. And whatever he said right there in Spanish, we didn't understand. A great match we watched in the qualifying. I just got to bring this up. Mark Sullivan almost made the show, and he started out with the front 5, left a crushed 7-pin, struck again, left a crushed 9-pin, spared that, and struck out to miss the show by 4 pins. That boy threw the ball phenomenal all week, and everybody thought he was going to make the show, and he comes up 4 pins short. But kudos to Mark Sullivan. He threw the ball so good this week. He's been throwing the ball good every week, but we'd have had some new blood on the show. Yeah,
and I'll tell you what, if you want to meet the personality behind Mark Sullivan, we did an interview with him last night, and it's posted on FloBowling.com. Watch it between when you're done watching the stepladder here in Spanish Springs and when you start watching the DHC Japan tonight at 9:40 Eastern Time for that qualifying for the Go Bowling PBA DHC Japan Invitational. Looking for halfway.
Yeah. We have a slug match going on right now, ain't it?
Well, once again, Amleto's been in this type of situation before in a stepladder. We look back when he won that title in the Northern California Classic. This second match, Amleto battling Chris Warren. Warren shoots 280, blemish in the second frame. Amleto had to step up still in the first ball of the 10th, get a strike to have a chance to, win the match, and he did. And then Amleto shot 296, highest scoring match in championship round history for the PBA50 tour.
Well, these guys aren't scared to strike. There's obviously no doubt about that. And Amleto,
the karmic payback sometimes.
Yeah.
You throw a better shot than the previous one, and the wrap 10 happens.
But this match isn't over yet. And there's still strikes to be had. And the stepladder's not getting any easier because Norm's up next. Then you got Walter Ray, and you're like, oh, my God.
We mentioned that DHE PBA Japan Invitational. It's on tonight beginning at 9:40 p.m. Eastern Time. Amleto's 20th PBA title was that event back in 2016.
Yep. I don't think there's any guy in any better shape than Amleto, definitely on the PBA50 tour. I mean, he exercises, he runs, he eats right. He's big about eating right and being in shape. And to bowl this many games, you got to be in shape. It was 34 games that they bowled this week, not counting practice and pro-am. And so they got at least 50 games in this week, and that ball's not near as far out. He knew he got the last one too far out, so this one comes in. So he's shooting a possible 279 if he takes it off the sheet.
And once again, and Tom Clark announced this last year at the FloBowling Fall Swing, it's not the $1 million they offered on Fox this year, but hey, still $1,000 if a player shoots a perfect game in a stepladder final on FloBowling. So, a little extra something for these guys to shoot for.
It's incentive. That's a big thing. Michael Haugen, perfect through 6, going for frame 7.
Get it! Oh, the twirl of the head pin lets him down.
Okay. Now we have the ultimate possibility of a tie.
Yes. So fans all week appreciate it. Watch that head pin. It stops, it twirls, and that's the wrong end to try to knock it down.
And unfortunately, that half pocket on the right lane just doesn't work as well as it does on the left lane. On the spare shot, it's amazing. Some guys had so much trouble on the fresh with 7 pins and 10 pins because they couldn't get. It went to the 10 pin too fast and it never got to the 7 pin. Looking at the graph here, the volume of oil from board 14 on the left to board 13 on the right. I mean, there was just a bunch of it there.
Yeah. You mentioned Sullivan finishing in 6th, just missing the show. Other finishers, Harry Sullins 7th, Kevin Croucher 8th. Lenny Borsch, our defending champion, ends up 9th. Wiseman finished in 10th position. Danny Wiseman, first PBA50 event. And that 7 went a little late there for Haugen.
Yeah, he's shaking his finger. No, you're not going to stand. Lenny Borsch won this tournament 3 times already. I asked him today, I go, which locker is yours? Because, at one point he was, in the top 5. I'm going, oh, my God, he's got a chance to win this thing 4 times.
So Monacelli, strike here, pulls him back to even.
You're going to see Walter, if he throws the same ball that he won with last week, and he finished second in Sarasota. Almost again. Carry down is happening to him. He's in, and unfortunately, guys that are playing it that much deep where he's starting the ball, he could be creating his own problem, So he's going to have to move back a little right because in the beginning, his ball wasn't facing, it was facing up too hard. He goes, I got to move left. Now we might have to move back to the right just to board a smidge to get that 10 to carry out.
We always joke about Major Mika, and Mika, when he came in and won the Senior U.S. Open last year for his first PBA50 title, we could almost call Monacelli out here in the PBA50 Tour Major Monacelli because he won the 2012 and 2013 Suncoast PBA Senior U.S. Opens, won the 2015 Senior Masters, and he won this PBA National Championship when we were in Elkhart, Indiana with it back in 2016. That's 4 major titles on the PBA50 tour.
And he's good at the big tournaments. I think these guys just step it up a notch, mentally. And
Oh, the wrap 10 that time. That's just vicious.
Okay, I definitely think, just my opinion, that he better migrate a little bit to the right. Not move his eyes, just move his feet a little bit to the right so we can get that ball to start up a little bit.
Yeah.
Some of the guys were moving their eyes to the left just so they could jam it to the pocket, but he's not jamming it. He's circling it, so he's going to have to move his feet a little to the right, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, is that just a little overcompensation?
Oh,
And it's still standing.
it's still standing. He didn't want to hurt it.
It's in the gutter. It's legal pinfall. It's down. It is a spare.
Well, we talked earlier. He's throwing a pearl ball where everybody else is throwing a solid. And that's going to slide it off just. Well, Larry's got to use these pins for league. You don't want to hurt him. We're just going to slide them off, save them.
So Monacelli, his max 248. And of course, Haugen still pacing 279 after that opening game.
Yeah. It's just amazing.
Oh, yeah.
He's in strike mode. And in the last 2 games of his matches, the crowd in here was just going nuts because he was coming from nowhere, making the show, and the people were just, every time you knew when he threw a ball because they just went nuts.
So Hagen Jr. right now,
he's in a commanding lead right now. This first shot in the 10th could be everything.
Yeah, I mean, right now with 248, a mark here for Haugen puts him in the 250s.
Yeah, so
but
I don't want to black cat anybody. All you have to do is mark.
Did Norm Duke say that today against Amleto in match play? And then, yeah. Quality shot, quality result.
And we have a winner.
And take an extra look at Haugen's shot in the 10th frame to lock that match up.
And you can see his ball never goes to the right. I mean, it's up the lane to the left. So he never run into that hang spot. Amleto get it done, moves the hair to the right. But you don't know when that's coming. When you've already had, a 5-bagger, you don't expect it to happen that fast.
Right. And it just shows you the aggressive bowling balls, the oil patterns that are, the amount of oil in the pattern makes things change almost instantaneously.
Yes.
Well, Tom, I know that you got to go check up on Walter really quick, and this match is in the hand. Get a little info on Monacelli, what happened to him there, what he thinks, and we'll be back with our semifinal match.
On the job.
Michael Hagen Jr. taking on Norm Duke in our semifinal match coming up next.
Amleto Monacelli, everybody. Congratulations to Amleto. Good match. Michael's only averaging 282 so far. So tough to beat that. Who's coming on board? Oh, Walter Ray is for 4 shots. Norm Duke is for 6 shots somewhere. Norman. Where's Norm? There's Norman.
So here we go. Semi-final match. Monacelli, Haugen. Haugen opens up with 251 for LeClair, 287 for Haugen in that opening match, and then leaving no doubt. By the time we got to the 10th frame of the semifinal, Haugen 277, Monacelli 237.
Well, he's only averaging 282 right now, so I think he's got a line.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, that's the same thing he's been doing. But he's bowling Duke, and when Duke's practicing, it looked like Duke was right on top of his shot. So there could be some changes. When I talked to Amleto after he had the front 5 and went down there, I said, what happened? He goes, it just didn't hook. He goes, and he didn't see it. And I said, we didn't see it on the camera either. He just must have pushed a little bit of oil down there. He said, I ended up moving right to try to get it to come back up. He just,
That ball rolled strong when it got the last 5 feet.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there, you hate to say it, but there was a lot of those this week too.
I mean, that's a pretty severe change of direction
Well,
this week for
and
Norm.
it was high, so you expect a 4-pin, but it was so high it drove right by the 9-pin. Not that which I didn't. I bowled like garbage this week, but I was hurt. I spent 3 days at the chiropractor, but my first game I had 3 4-9s and a 4-7-9. So I feel his pain.
So Duke just taking the one first frame. Best thing to do, make sure you don't lose any more of that count.
Yeah, well, he can still shoot 279, and at the rate that Michael's going, he's going to lose by 3 pins if he holds up to his average.
So Duke.
This match is going to be a little bit slower because Duke's going to be
Yeah.
taking his time. He's going to change the pace, I guarantee you.
Duke finished second here last year to Lenny Borsch in the PBA50 National Championship. And tell you what, there's no such thing as a lot of carry down through the back end of this house when you see that head pin stop like it did.
Well, right now there isn't, and
Right.
that they just swept off the 10-pin.
So they'll get that respotted. Right. No, it's back already. Wow, it's back already. Holy cow. That didn't take long. That's staff here at the Villages once again on top of things.
They're sitting on top of those pin setters back there. Well, when you got your boss sitting in the front row seat watching the show, you're going to do something.
And Norm, of course, staying with the spare ball, or the strike ball for the spares.
He does it all the time. He's got that ability to really flatten his wrist out and actually back it up a little bit. And it just gives him one more ball in his arsenal if you can do that. And you see more and more guys trying to do that. But that is really tough to do. It takes a lot of practice to be able to keep your wrist that straight and back it up at just the last second.
You know, it's interesting right now. Haugen just taking the pace that Duke's kind of setting here. You know, Haugen a little slow getting out of the set area.
Well, you know, you can't let things – if something gets into your head, then it's going to affect you. And he's like, okay, if you want to play that game, I can do the same thing, you know.
Great shot there by Haugen.
He might take a walk and go get a Coke. We don't know.
You know, he had a few solid games last year when he won that Johnny Petreglia BBL Open. And I think there's a guy in the building here that would like a rematch for a title against Mr. Haugen. And I believe that man's our #1 seed.
That would be Walter
They
Ray.
battled each other last year for
And
the championship. In
he led this
Farmingdale.
tournament by 300. That's just incredible.
He teased him partway through the afternoon match play round. He let him get in with like 70, and then he just said,
yeah, then he hit the gas.
bye, guys.
Speaking of the BVL Open, that is he kind of ran into what Amleto just seen at in Farmingdale.
Yes, Jeremy Melito last night
900
on 1 and 2.
on 1 and 2 using 2 different balls. And that was I think they said it was the 36 300, which is kind of neat because you got to shoot 36 strikes to shoot 900.
That's exactly
So
it.
he's got a unique little deal right there. But congratulations to him.
Got a chance. Not enough of thinness on that 2-pin. Yeah, and I don't care. You know, I don't care what anybody says. To get, I don't care what the condition is. To get 36 in a row is just amazing. You know, and even there's one. You know, you look back at the great Glenn Allison. Everybody thinks his should have counted.
There
Tough
wasn't even a
conditions,
600
tough
on
balls.
his pair
Yeah.
that night, and he shoots 900.
Well, Duke got a chance to get right back in this match with a double. Of course, it's been a great year for Norm so far at this point. Those back-to-back wins for Norm in the
on the regular tour.
tour.
And that's having 2 different shots on each lane. They had a long shot and a short shot, you know, the patterns.
And
But we know, everybody knows that Duke, when it comes to grinding, he's a grinder. I mean, he's got so many tricks that he can do with a bowling ball. I mean, today, at one point, he's playing the gutter, and if you turned around 2 seconds later, he's inside at like fourth arrow going around it, trying to find something where he's going to give him the best carry. I mean, he is not scared to move across the lane.
And there's
he's
what
moved
champions do.
Yeah, he's moved inside of where he was. He was going up 2-3, and he just went up like 6-7, 7-8, and he might be trying to get away from that hang spot. That because the lanes, even Walter said, are getting tighter, and if everybody's outside playing there, they could be pushing some of that oil down. I mean, there's not that much to the outside, but when you have Amleto pushing some stuff out there, yeah, that break point could get a little wiggly. Well, at least that's what we call it. It looks like it's going to hook, and it doesn't.
And now with Haugen.
There's that 9. Last time he got that 9 pin out because the pin came across and got it.
Yeah, and is that just maybe the slight mental overcorrection from the 210 the frame before? You know, like really get this one on the bottom?
Well, yeah, you know, when you leave one and you see what Norm's doing, you're going to make an adjustment. And you're like, well, I don't want to leave, come in light again, so I'll either rev it a little harder. I'm going to move a board, half board to the right, and see if I can catch it, because he's going up and at him. He's not really giving it away. But when you're bowling somebody like Norm, you can't give him a break, because I mean, he's going to jump all over you.
So Duke, the advantage of 3 pins currently. I'm sorry. Yeah, Duke is the 3-pin advantage because he's on the double. If Duke were to get another streak, he'd have 59 in the third, where Hagen Jr. would just have
56 in the third. 9 spare up. Michael's got to get back on the horse here.
Looks good.
Hey, he's at 5-4. He's moved in a little bit off of where he was at. And it's not like, I mean, the shot's tough enough, but these guys, we're not splitting hairs out here, because there is a little bit of friction if you attack the lane the right way. It gives you a little bit of area. But if you're in the wrong part of the lane on this pattern, 140 is a real good score.
So Duke looking for 3 in a row.
We had this pattern in for the Pro-Am, and the Yams were like, we don't see this much oil all year long combined, you know.
And there it is for Norm, the 13-pin advantage now for Norm as we get an extra look at Duke. And just look at that
classic style, post it, and there he is at 7-8. He's taking it out to 5. He's not giving it away a whole lot, but he's rolling the devil out of the ball. And you don't see a big snap, because that's what's hard to control, and especially when you got this much oil. Trying to create a big angle entry, again, yeah, that's pretty to look at, and Amleto made it look pretty for 5 frames, but look what ended up happening.
So Duke looking for 4 in a row. Winner of this match advances the top seed, Walter Ray Williams Jr.
And that was outside. That wasn't where he played that last shot. That was more like 4-5.
Tried to maybe guess a little bit more breakdown than was actually at.
Yeah, you know, well, that's the hard thing about our sport. You know, there's no trees or water or sand traps out there. I mean, to tell you where not to hit it or throw it, you know. You got to read your ball motion really well, and you got to know that you executed the shot. If you executed the shot and you really watch ball motion, you got a chance of making a good adjustment on the lane. But if you just throw it and don't see any of that, you're just guessing on where to go, you know. The big thing about bowling on a tough shot is you got to believe that you're making good shots. And if every shot you throw, you go, oh, that wasn't so good. Well, how do you adjust off of that? You know, by the time you wait for it, you make a good shot. It could be the 10th frame, you know.
So Hagen, one of the 2 allowed re-racks per game. Other top finishers this week here in the Villages. Dale Schuda finished 11th. Joe Bauer 12th. Sammy Ventura 13th. And how about John Petraglia?
Johnny Petraglia, you know, led this tournament. And at one point, it didn't look like he's even going to make, when we started this morning with the top 32, didn't look like he was going to make the top 16. And all of a sudden, he catches fire. He gets clear up to like 9th. And it's like, hey, there's a possibility for him to make the show. And Johnny's 72 years old. And he's going, I'm running out of gas.
Yeah, great showing by Johnny. And, boy, I'll tell you what, it gave a lot of guys not a dry eye after he's done. And there's the old, that's like the resin 410 nowadays, isn't that?
Well, when we start seeing on this pattern, you start seeing the ball not making the turn, now we're talking about speed control. I mean, because you're already throwing a big ball. right? And you're already probably revving it early, as much as you can. So the only other thing you got to do is you got to cut down the speed. You got to get this ball to pick up in the mid lane. And if it doesn't see the mid lane, it skips through it. And look at that shot.
How about that?
The old 410.
Let's take another
And the
look
crowd going
at
nuts over that. They like that.
You got, what do they say, about a 1/4 inch on that 4-pin to slide it over into the 10?
It looked like he was going to miss it and just nailed it perfect.
And you talk about the momentum swing right there. He's got to recompose himself.
Yeah, you got to get your heart rate down. You pick that up, you're happy, you jump that out, you give it the fist pump. Now breathe. Take a breath, slow your heart rate back down. You're still in the match.
Yeah, he's down by 11. 7th frame.
Cross 6, out to 4, and the love tap on the messenger.
How about that for Haugen? And there's the high five with his wife, PT. There you go. The fist pump out of PT. How about that? Watch that head pin come back off the sideboard.
A little light. You seen that ball deflect. It wasn't going to leave a 9-pin. It was going to take it out. And the head pin rolls around and barely just kind of butt kicks that out of there. And those are the kind of shots that get into your opponent's head. First you pick up an unbelievable spare. Then you
and the paralyzed
roll
5
the
almost falls.
So do you think the back ends might be getting a little tighter?
They are getting a bit tighter. Watch the ball and the 2-pin hit at the same time. That 5 almost standing back up. And Tom, you think 16-pound bowling ball for Norm, 3-pound 8-ounce pin shouldn't make a pin stand up, but it's all that momentum with the head, the 2-pin coming off the sideboard.
And if you don't have traction on the back of the lane, the ball's got to drive through the pins. And if there's getting some oil carry down there because of the oil we're using, and we did see some out of ranges, the back ends get tighter, you can leave something like that. And the last thing he wants to leave is like a 5-7.
So here's Duke.
And he got slow on that one because he wanted the ball to change direction. And we just talked about speed control, but he got a little bit too soft. I mean, if you're going to get that soft and it swept, I thought it swept him off. You got to you're going to have to make these adjustments. But that speed control, he got too slow. He's going to have to move left if he's going to do that.
So Norm taking a look up at the scoreboard right now. And he realizes he's still up by 11 and was working on that strike. But Haugen can cut it down to 1 in the next frame.
That spare with no problem. He definitely got a big break out of that by not getting that 7-pin to stand up.
So huge shot here for Haugen as Walter Ray is going down to practice and fans are oohing-eyeing Walter's practice shots. I've never seen that before. That made Haugen kind of stop for a second, like, what's going on?
We got standing room here. I mean, all the bleachers are full. This place is packed, which is cool.
Yes.
I mean, the people that come out to watch us down here are absolutely amazing. And we're coming back next year, that's even more amazing.
Yeah, they announced it again. It's going to be a major. It's going to be the PBA50 National Championship presented by Spanish Springs Lanes, and the money on top is going to be pretty good as well once again.
We're treated so good down here, and the fans, I mean, they're our age group, It's the villages, and they remember all the guys that were on TV years ago. And they're used to watching these guys on Saturday afternoon. Now they're here in person.
To take the lead for the first time since the 3rd frame. There it is.
He's grinding back. Now, that puts some pressure on Norm because Norm's got to be feeling a little bit lost after that last shot on that left lane going, all right, I was too slow there. Am I going to move in? Am I going to throw it a little harder? I just almost left a 5-pin. He's got to have a trick up his sleeve.
So you see Haugen there. He's up by 9. Duke stepping up the foundation frame. Duke's maximum, 227. However, Haugen's maximum is 236.
Norm with those eyes. I swear to God he could look through steel. I mean, he's so concentrated.
What a toss when he needed it for Norm. But he's still behind.
Well, the best thing he can do now since he's finishing the 10th, is strike out and put all the pressure back on Michael to perform. Next week we are in Mooresville, North Carolina.
Yep.
At New Victory Lanes.
Yes, indeed. Coverage starts on Monday here on FloBowling. So what a weekend you get here. You're finishing up with a PBA50 major tonight, jumping right into the DHC Japan Invitational for the Go Bowling PBA Tour tonight, tomorrow, into Sunday morning, and then right first thing Monday, we get to watch all you guys take to the lanes again at Victory Lanes. And Norm not happy with.
I think he heard something.
Yep.
He might have heard something.
He always, no matter what, if you heard something or not, it's always I gotta get into that thumb hole and dig around a little bit.
Now you'll mess around a little bit. We're gonna change it up. Yeah, we get 1 day to drive. I mean, for our motorhome people.
Yes, indeed.
About 10.5 hours up to Mooresville, North Carolina. Then after that, we go to Trenton, New Jersey.
Yeah, that's a quick turnaround because Wednesday night we get done in Trenton and we start Friday morning right away.
Oh,
and that's about a 9-hour drive for everyone. So, but hey, you guys do it for the love of the game and the fans, and I know the fans are going to be coming out in force.
Said it
in
for
Trenton.
Forever. They made the movie for the love of the game about the wrong sport. It should be about bowling because we travel all over the place.
Duke High again doesn't make a big enough adjustment after the almost 6-7-10 last frame, and he leaves a 6-10 again on that left lane.
And you seen as soon as he threw up his hands like, I can't believe that just hooked early. I just made an adjustment off of that. On the good side, he didn't leave a split. On the bad side, that puts him farther down. Because Haugen steps up and strikes, you can hear the door starting to shut.
Well, it's in the Haugen's going to be stepping up a 10th frame. Norm, don't slide behind it. And wow.
He just, that was just like Amleto's 10-pin. It's just on the other side.
Let's take an extra look at that. And ball barely starts to hook back. Good thing he doesn't throw polyester at those corners.
Yeah. If he'd have thrown plastic at that it would definitely been a 10-pin flush.
So 207 is the maximum here for Duke. Haugen is 7. Yeah, Haugen just needs good count, if my math is correct. We'll find out how good my math is.
And
There's
Norm is still confused on that left lane. You know?
Haugen's going to need a mark. So, because if Haugen goes 9 out here, that's 75.94. That's 203. So, if we were to go 9 miss, so Haugen needs any mark to advance.
All you have to do is mark.
But sometimes knowing that's the key.
Well, you can't think that way. You got to go up going, I'm making the best shot I could make.
Oh, my. He thought he was done.
Yeah, he was.
And Norm's looking
like, did that really just fall over? Because he had that match won, sitting on the bench. Look at Norm going, I can't believe it just, look at PT down there going.
But single pins, they don't make him 100% of the time. We see all the stats on the Fox shows this past year for the Go Bowling PBA Tour. 95%, 97%. He's got to make this.
He's got to make it. But as straight as he is, I don't think that's a problem.
There it is.
And that is a win for Michael Haugen. Now he's got to go against the GOAT.
Right.
Walter Ray Williams, who has got unbelievably hot hand on this pattern.
Stay behind the foul line, get 2 pins, and Michael Hagen Jr., even though it's a little lower scoring, he's dropped his average for the day. He'll advance. The crowd still rumbling about that.
Yeah, they're still. They can't believe that 10-pin fell down. I'm sure Norm's in the same position. Goes, who's got the air gun? That pin fell forward.
And there it is.
He just threw it straight down the lane.
So there we go. I know you're going to go talk to Walter Ray, Tom.
Yep.
And we're going to be back with our championship match. Michael Haugen versus Walter Ray Williams Jr. coming up next. And I'll tell you what, that was a back-and-forth battle for Duke and Haugen. Each bowler getting a break here and there. The difference being the conversion by Haugen of the 410 in the 6th frame. There's the difference maker in this match. Unbelievable. And we're going to be back with that championship match. Can Michael Hagen Jr. Finish the last rung on the ladder, or is Walter Ray Williams Jr. going to go back-to-back weeks and really put his name out front for the PBA50 Player of the Year? We'll find out shortly after Walter Ray's practice. Just waiting on the scoreboard to be adjusted. Michael Hagen Jr. going first, and what did Walter Ray have to say in practice there?
He felt they were getting very wet-dry, and obviously you might have seen a shot. We tried way out, and ball hooked up right early. Michael Haugen told me he's switching to a pearl ball instead of a solid.
Let's take the extra look at that.
So Walter's got two choices. He can either do what he does well, just kind of angle it up and with really firm, or he actually tried a four-step approach and slowed it up to try to get away from some of the wet dry.
Walter Ray, first frame. Hey, I wonder who that is in the background.
Did you hear Fancy?
Yes, I did. You know, it's amazing. The two wives, they're going to be sitting near each other during this match. You know, PT, you see her sitting in the front, just getting back off the camera there. She'll give a high five here and there. She's usually quite reserved back behind the lanes. Nope, Fancy is going to be out there every time. Come on.
And I think that's motivation for Walter, because obviously he's been bowling unbelievably. One in Clearwater. He's throwing the ball fantastic. But it's Walter. He's going to circle it a little bit, and that he got away with it. That is farther left than he has played all day and all 18 games in the tournament.
And I'll tell you what.
He just switched up to a four-step approach, changed things. Been using a five-step playing outside, switched to a four-step, soften it up, move up, go around the pattern a little bit. I mean, this is the thing that bowlers got to understand. You know, you can't be a one-trick pony. You got to be versatile depending on shots that you run into. You got to have more tricks in the bag.
And there we go, a pair of doubles to start this championship match. Yeah, you mentioned the games that Walter Ray had today. I mean, I'll tell you what, there's been 0 games out of 16 for Walter Ray under 200. That's almost impossible to do out here on the PBA Tour in a day. I know one bowler that did it one time, and he was clean for all those games, too, and that was Jacob Buttriff when he won it out in Las Vegas in 2016 in the Las Vegas Open. I don't know if Walter Ray was clean for all those games, but it wouldn't surprise me if he was. Hagen Jr. stepping up. Third frame. Working on a double as his opponent is.
and that's something that's real surprising right now, that Michael actually looks like he's going straighter than Walter. You know? There was one match today, we were kind of kidding Walter. We thought he was going so straight it looked like he was using his horseshoe release. He was really going up and at him.
Walter Ray to get the match back to even. And the 6-pin, you saw the back end go around the 10. That was a little unusual for the 6 to fall that way.
Yeah, he just kind of laid there.
Let's take an extra look at that last shot by Walter Ray. You watch that.
Yeah, he's more like 8-9, and he's going at him inside. And he catches a little bit of that oil, and that ball deflects, and that the 3-pin just hits real shallow on the 6-pin and sends it around it.
He and Danny Wiseman, my 2 favorite spare balls this week, Black Diamonds. Cover picked up by Walter Ray.
And normally you hear that thing thumping all the way down the lane because he rolls it end over end.
So Walter Ray now down by 11. 4th frame. And boy, you think the front 10 he had last week in the championship match was kind of hanging in his brain a little bit today?
It might have been, you know, but it'd been pretty nice, you know, to shoot 300 in the title match.
That time the 6 does the job.
He's getting a little animated. So one thing about Walter was ahead by 300, and he had to bowl Amleto. It was like Walter can't lose, and he was talking about, I wonder if I ought to throw it two-handed this game because I can still take the lead. But he goes, nah, and he just pounded him again. But here's what happens on a pair when you get a bunch of guys throwing kind of in the same area with a lot of surface. It really burns up that front part of the lane, and balls start hooking early, and you try to move in around it, and then all of a sudden now you're leaving weak 10s, flat 10s, because the ball doesn't make a move.
And there it is for Haugen, front 4.
One thing Michael does well and knows well is he knows his equipment. He goes from a solid to a pearl. He understands ball motion.
Some of the other 50 players back there, I heard some big bus tone chant coming out from the back, and Michael gave the arrow back out to him, the finger point. So,
but you notice he never took his eyes off of the lane and off of what he wants to do. He just acknowledged what he heard it and just kept right on. And he can't get out of his mode of striking. You can't let other things in your head.
Fifth frame goes high, and now
you see his hand. He went like he thought it wiggled. Personally, I thought he got it to the right a little early. It caught some friction, and it just checked up. I mean, it wasn't as straight through the mid lanes as he's been playing.
Well, a lot of guys were talking this week about the cliff, where all of a sudden it didn't just slowly develop. It suddenly just got there.
And it was literally like the ball hooked, and you would make a 2-in-1 move and then hit the 3-pin in the face. But then you'd move back, and the ball went high again. I mean, we called it a cliff. It was – and that's what happens when you develop so much friction on one side because you're trying to get the ball to hook. You soak all the oil off the lane, and now, nobody played inside to blend it out, and it becomes a cliff. And that's that wet, dry condition that people talk about, a cliff, whatever you want to call it. But that's one of the hardest conditions to bowl on because you got to normally throw it harder and straighter, and you can't give it away a whole lot unless you just have a boatload of hand.
And a little laughing by the fans in the crowd. I mean, you see the fans all the way down to the bleachers, down behind lanes 6 and 7 and 8, and it is a full house. And some of the fans just got to tone it down a hair.
Well, there is cocktails behind us, so
that's true. And Walter Ray does get the – I saw him release that ball, and it looked a little flatter than he had on that last shot where he had the 10 pin. So you think flatter release might leave a weak 10, and that time it didn't do it. Well,
you look at – he didn't give the ball away. That ball is going at the pocket.
Yeah.
He didn't give it to the right where – and a lot of us – that's what our eyes like to see. We like to see the ball go to the right, hit a friction spot, and turn and go left. And – Walter is very good at actually getting the ball to go from right to left at the pocket, and he sees that.
Sixth frame to take the lead back. Waving it back to the right, and it holds pocket.
Because Walter's one of the guys, and there's a couple guys that can do it. I know Chris Barnes can do it, and Michael Fagan could do it, but Walter can actually play so far right. He can throw it over the right gutter onto the one board and go at the pocket. Now, most people, they're scared of the gutter anyway, so they're not going to get far enough right to throw it over the gutter. And if they do, they throw it to the left gutter because they throw it in, they don't want to hit the lane.
Sure. Hagen Jr. to stay within a stick. And
that ball check. You think the front part of the lane's changing? Because that at about 18 feet, that ball starts going left.
Right.
But the problem is you don't want to move left and catch all that cliff that we talk about because that at 13, 14 is where that oil is so deep that the ball could just push to the right and not even hit the head pin.
He can move 2 boards to the left with his feet, one with his target left, and he can miss the head pin to the right as much as that cliffs. He goes, uh-oh. You heard him say it.
That is something that is uncharacteristic of Michael Haugen, missing a spare that way. I mean, he started that thing right, and there's so much oil there, the ball never reads it. It just keeps going. It hydroplanes, and that's where young people, amateurs starting, they always think they got to force the ball to the right. And when it's going across that lane, there's so much oil there, the ball is it's going to fall back. There's no friction there, and it's going to fall back towards those pins. You just can't start it up too much.
Got to strike here to keep pressure on Walter Ray. And the cliff, you watch that ball never pick up friction.
He moved his eyes in and hit the cliff, and the ball never read. Now, this is where, in qualifying, the guys that figured it out obviously ended up here today. But there were so many guys that it was tough to figure out. When we got on that double burn on C squad, oh my God, the cliff was so pronounced that it was so dry here and so wet in the middle, and you wanted to move left, but you couldn't get the ball around the corner.
So the max now for Hagen Jr. is 245, as Walter Ray is going to be stepping up in the 7th frame, working on 3 in a row. And boy, could Walter Ray force mandatory strike mode out of Haugen with a couple of strikes here.
Oh, he slowed it up.
Will it get there? Will it get there?
Yes. That is what we call a slow rack.
Look at Walter Ray walking that one off. Take another look at that shot.
Now there's a senior messenger right there because it's crawling over there. That's one of my.
You see him? He's begging for it, begging for it. Get there. Get down.
That's one of my messengers. Except for it hit the pin and wouldn't fall over.
Walter Ray 4 in a row, still a possible 279. Stepping up in the 8th frame.
Well, that would be tough if he shoots 279. He had 288 last week in title matches.
And he's trying to put his stamp on PBA50 Player of the Year early.
There it is.
And it's now mandatory strike mode for Haugen. Nothing but strikes is going to be have to go on the scoreboard to have a chance. And that's what Walter Ray given.
And that's with Walter having some
back.
opens, you know. I don't foresee that, but anything could happen.
I mean, if Walter Ray were to go open, he'd be in the 230s with good counts.
Haugen started that one up.
Haugen's maximum right now is 245. The good news for Haugen, at least, is that, he had all his mistakes together.
Right.
Open with a 4-bagger, mistakes together, being closed with a 5-bagger. Could still have a chance.
This is the part of the game where Haugen seems to really light him up. And he did it last year when he was winning titles. You know, it's like he was cruising along and all of a sudden somebody hit a switch. And when he beat Barnes that time on the show, at the end of he just all of a sudden got into strike mode.
And he still has to be in mandatory strike mode to have any chance against Walter Ray. But it's going to be out of his control after the 9th frame. Because Walter Ray is going to finish first.
He started out, he got away from that hook spot where he sent that one wide early and it went through the nose. I think he's sitting back and kind of watching Walter a little bit and said, you know, maybe I can do that too.
Walter Ray, boy, for a guy that had 0 titles on the PBA50 Tour last year, is coming out with a vengeance.
Yeah.
In 2019.
He's coming up. That's the same ball he used to win with in Clearwater. And I told him today, I said, I'm going to start bringing you just a 1-ball bag and your shoes. And you can walk in with your 1-ball bag and the shoes because that's the only ball you've been throwing the entire time. It's a pearl conspiracy with the pin up, mask just to the right of the thumb. You can see it right there. It's nothing fancy other than the way he throws it.
Nine's a winner on this ball. Because with 9 out, he's at 247. Haugen's maximum 245.
And that's flush.
How about that? Walter Ray wins.
Back-to-back wins on the PBA 50 starting out the season.
Incredible.
And a major. The GOAT. That is why he is called the greatest of all time. You cannot count this guy out. He never quits. Now he's just going through the motions. But he'll take the rest of them anyway. $279 in this title match, $288 in his last title match. Pretty incredible. And to think it looked like he was lost for a pure second and obviously found it.
I'll tell you what, Walter Ray now just 1 title away from tying John Handegard for all-time PBA 50 Tour titles. Of course, we know he's the leader on PBA Tour titles with 47. And I'll tell you what, that title count just keeps going up. It's a huge amount, over 100 titles across all facets of PBA bowling for Walter Ray Williams Jr.
You know when you get on the lane against Walter, there's fancy. It's just going to be, it's a bloodbath.
And Michael Hagen Jr. getting out of the way the rest of the way, and the fans very appreciative of his effort. But you can't make a mistake this year against Walter Ray Williams Jr., and Haugen did it in 3 frames, and he could have done it in 1.
Right.
As soon as he did it in 3, he was done. So we're going to get to John Weber with the check and trophy presentation down on the lanes. And we'll get an interview with Walter Ray Williams tonight. Check it out on FloBowling.com.
Hey.
And here comes Haugen's last shot. And mixes
he's
it up.
done. And I will see you next week in Mooresville, North Carolina.
Yes, you will. You will see us then. And Tom, thanks again for everything. In the
You're
booth.
welcome.
Always
Enjoyed it.
appreciate
We'll do it again.
Thanks, Tom. And here we go. Handshakes, hugs, all around. But Walter Ray Williams Jr., PBA Tour title number 13 for Walter Ray.
Winning another PBA50 major, 13 PBA50 Tour titles now. I think he's one away from tying the record there.